Welcome to Perspective with Kaylee Phillips, the safe space to get deep, break through, and find alignment. Here we prioritize wholehearted self-love, passion-driven careers, and living your absolute best life. You're here for a reason, so jump into the good energy, put your rose-colored glasses on, and tune in for massive impact and growth. I'm your host, KP, ready to release perfect and welcome perspective. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We have our first ever guest here today, Marlie, who I'm so excited to chat with. And we were just saying it's so crazy. This is our first time ever talking face to face, but it feels like I've known you for 10 years.
I love it.
I know. I love it so much. It's just so great how we can connect with each other online here and then change each other's lives. How cool is that?
Really.
It's amazing. So, Marlie is a life and business coach whose specialty is helping people to uncover their calling, then build a fulfilling life, career, and business around it. Pop off. She started in the online entrepreneur space in 2021 as a social media manager and then pivoted into business and life coaching once she gained clarity around the kind of work that fulfills her the most. She used that clarity to come into alignment in her own life and career, which we've talked about a bunch over the past few months. And today, she encourages her community to never settle and to go all in on creating a life that they absolutely love. You are doing God's work over here. This is amazing. You're such a superstar. I love it. Today, we're going to be talking about the journey of establishing yourself and finding your groove because you went through this amazing journey of pivoting and trying out different things, seeing what works for you the most. We're going to talk about the trust in the journey that's required for all of this and the balance between doing the things your own way and leaning into mentorship and expert advice and finding that balance between the two polarities there. And we have so much in common in our personal lives and our viewpoints and our businesses. So I'm just really excited to dive into all of it together.
Me too. I am so excited for this. It's going to be amazing.
First, I want to ask, you're a life and business coach and you position yourself as a dream life fairy godmother, your big sis in biz, and your fave friend to go to for advice. And I would love to hear your story of how you got to this point. Where did you start? Has it always been this way in your positioning? What is your story? Tell me about you and how you got here.
Such a loaded question. First of all, thanks for having me. I absolutely love the podcast. For those listening, you need to know I binged KP's podcast in less than a week. I think I told you. It's so good. I just love you and your content and everything, just the vibe that you bring and the energy that you bring. So it's such an honor to be your first guest on the podcast. But yeah, so my journey has been, it hasn't always been this. I haven't always been a life and business coach or known that that's what I wanted to do. I see my story as it was stepping stone by stepping stone led me here. And I finally kind of feel like I'm getting to a place in my life, and I just turned 28, where I feel like have it a little bit figured out, where I kind of feel like I have a sense now for what I really want to do in life and what I feel like my purpose is and the kind of work that's going to fulfill me for a long time. So I started my journey in 2021 as an online entrepreneur. I just got back from Thailand. I was teaching abroad there, teaching English at a high school. And I came home in the middle of the pandemic and I was unemployed, and people were getting laid off. It was impossible to get a job. I felt so hopeless. And it was actually a friend of mine who was like, have you ever considered doing social media management freelance for local businesses, small businesses in the area? Because you're just, when I was traveling, I was posting to social media a lot. And she was like, you're really good at that. I decided to start a social media management business. And at first it was just to make some money, to have a job. And it was something I knew I was good at. And to work for myself. I always wanted that freedom of being able to work remotely or work from anywhere. But it wasn't necessarily a decision I made rooted in purpose or alignment. So I started feeling that out and figuring that out a few months in. When I was doing this work all day, I was like, okay, this is amazing. I get to work for myself. I have all this free time, but it doesn't really light me up. It's not lighting my soul on fire. And I was in a few communities or networking groups of online entrepreneurs at the time, and hearing them talk about their relationships with their clients and the types of conversations they were having, I was like, that's, I think, the missing piece of why I don't feel super fulfilled in this job or in this role. I was just sitting on Canva all day long and posting on social media. I was like, I need that human connection back in my life. And I thought, what a great way to bring that element into my work through coaching, very similar to like teaching and like mentoring and helping people, which has always fulfilled me in the past. So that's how I became a business coach. And at the time, I was making TikToks about being a social media manager, and I had people asking me questions anyway and like wanting to book sessions with me to learn how to get started. So it was actually like a seamless transition. But then I just became really heavily influenced by the business coaching space. And I fell out of alignment once again, and I stopped feeling fulfilled once again. Um, it's just like I don't know how to, it's like very complicated the way I feel about the business coaching space, but like something that didn't sit well with me. I think there's just like like for me, I really value fulfillment, contentment, like gratitude, and I see, and this is like controversial a little bit, but like I see that I don't think that there's a direct correlation between money and wealth, and then also like how fulfilled and happy you feel. But I feel like that's like such a common narrative in the business coaching space. And a lot of the programs were based around getting to a certain money milestone in your business. This mini mind for 5K months, this mastermind for 10K months, my private coachings for scaling to 100K months. And it just felt like everything revolved around money and numbers. And it didn't sit right with me because, and like, don't get me wrong, I care so much about helping women build wealth and I want women to be wealthy. My God, this world needs more money in the hands of women. Like it would be such a better place. But at the same time, like my passion, what I feel like my calling has always been is to help people just feel truly happy and fulfilled. And the truth of the matter is you can be a millionaire and not have that.
Yep. Yep.
So I didn't want to base my coaching around just money milestones. And that's where it was headed. And I had the 5K mini mind and I had the mastermind for scaling and I fell out of love with it. And I think that my audience really caught on or could feel it through the screen a little bit toward the end of last year because sales became really hard and like selling became really hard and it felt robotic and just I could tell without really being aware of it yet that like something was unaligned. I wasn't feeling unfilled, but I was still trying to sell the spots because it was my livelihood,
Mhm.
which sucks, but that's the truth. Um and so at the end of the year, after a few just like flopped launches, honestly, I was like, something needs to change. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. My audience senses it. They also want something different from me because my community is amazing. I know that they value what I value. Um, and so I took time off over the holidays. I completely took time off social media, which is actually ironically when you and I started talking a lot. And I just started like getting really honest with myself, like, what do I want? Like what kind of work is really going to fulfill me 50 years from now? And what kind of coach do I want to be? Um, and I've been figuring that out over the past few months and that's when I decided to bring in the life coaching aspect because to me it blends what I know about business and strategy and how to build a profitable business and a scalable business with also helping people feel aligned and fulfilled and happy and like their business supports the kind of lifestyle they want to have, whether that's a slow life where you're making a comfortable wage or whether you want to be a millionaire. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever fulfills my clients at the end of the day. Um, and then also I did kind of want to expand it to people who maybe aren't entrepreneurs or coaches and just have big goals. Like maybe you want to write a book or you want to start a podcast or you want to be a creator of some sort and helping them find fulfillment and alignment in that and like have the accountability as they go after those goals. So that's where
Yes.
I am now.
Wow. Amazing things. Words of wisdom everywhere. First of all, I think it's so important for us to lay the foundation that it was essential for you to do the social media manager path that wasn't aligned and then do the business coaching that wasn't aligned. And all of those pieces were essential for the journey because someone might look at this and be like, oh, it's so annoying that she couldn't just find what she wanted in the first place. But it wouldn't have been the same because every single experience led you to be who you are now. And these all influenced the path and influenced the mindset that you now embody, and it was all essential. So for anyone listening that feels like you might be in the low point or like going through the misalignment period, it's essential for the journey. And all of these things happen for a reason to help you become the best version of yourself and become the leader and find your true calling and all of those pieces. It all fits together. And I'm sure you can look back now in reflection and say, I'm so grateful.
100%. I think without those experiences and like that was a hard realization I had to come to at the end of last year. It's funny, I actually like had a conversation with my coach because at the end of last year I was just kind of like, what is going on? Like everything I try to sell, like it was after 3 years in my business, it was really the first time I was dealing with flopped launches. Like my first few launches were super successful. So I was like, what is going on? Like I was just so upset. And then when I really started like going within and asking myself, like, well, what if this is happening for a reason? What if the universe is trying to tell me something? I said to her, I was like, what if I wasn't supposed to sell those spots because I'm not supposed to be running those programs this year?
Yep.
And she was like, exactly. Like, exactly. So
Ex-
I just think like how much longer it would have, I'm grateful for them because it helped me, this is still a newer business. I haven't even reached the 5 year mark yet. So like without those experiences, it would have taken me longer to figure out what's really going to fulfill me. So yeah.
Yeah, and that first took the open mind of seeing things as lessons and opportunities because there is the lack mindset of seeing everything as a disappointment and it didn't go according to the plan. But this is the exact mindset that we need to embody. Something else I wanted to mention that you were talking about is worth and wealth. And I think it's so important to define like what does wealth actually mean? I know you're a fan of Mel Robbins, and something that they talked about was feeling comfortable and feeling that like sense of happiness in your relating to finances. You know, the phrase like money can't buy happiness. They said that, you might have listened to this too, but they said that up to the point of being comfortable, happiness does kind of depend on your financial situation because you need to pay your bills and not have the anxiety and stress of like not having a place to live and your needs met. But then once you get to that point of your needs being met, it does not impact anymore. Your happiness is then dependent on you internally, whether you're a millionaire or you're making just enough to get by. That happiness no longer depends on the finances. It depends on your self worth and your self love and your relationships and all those other pieces. And I think that's so important for us to talk about because we are here to make money at the end of the day. Like we have these soul driven purposes, but we also are here to fill program spots and sell our services and make our businesses successful.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the point of what else are we doing for ourselves? And I think the business coaching industry sometimes can get in that super toxic mindset of money, money, money. That's all that matters. And that can be so overwhelming, especially when sometimes there's the mindset of like, I don't even want to share my finances. I don't want to share how much money I'm making, but I feel like I have to share. I had a 10K month, work with me because I can make you have 15K months. And what if I want to keep
Yes.
my finances to myself? What if that's my world? And what I share is simply the value, and can that be enough? I think that's another mindset block. Like, can just sharing the transformation and the value I provide and my personal brand and my message be enough without having to put a money attachment? And I think that was really hard for me to work through on my journey because we had very similar journeys with that path of business coach to mindset lifestyle coach.
I have struggled with that so much. Like, yeah, yeah, you hit the nail on the head because that was another thing that made me feel unfulfilled more on the internal side, less about like the messaging and what type of messaging feels aligned, but also like I did feel that pressure as a business coach to always be almost like up leveling in my business. And it's just such a trapped feeling. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like if you're, I see people do this, like they sell programs based on like they hit the next money milestone and then they launch the program of how to hit that milestone and then they meet the next one and they're like, oh, I move, this is what I do, this is what I do. Well, what happens when 1 year that doesn't happen, or 1 month you have a health problem in your month? Like, do you lose your brand message? Like, I just didn't want to build my brand around that, and I felt ashamed on in months where like my income even if it stayed the same or if it went down. And the truth is, like, I still wasn't struggling, but it's like I felt less valid, I guess, as a business coach if my money wasn't constantly going up. Oh, it's such a weird feeling. It's like talking, saying it out loud sounds like Black Mirror. Like it's so dystopian. But You're right. Like, and you just feel trapped and you're just like, can my message be enough? Like my finances are my finances. At the end of the day, it doesn't make me a good or a bad coach versus what I'm going through in the personal side of my life. Like I still know how to help my clients reach their goals. But yeah, for sure that was something that I struggled with as well. And I
Hmm.
envied other coaches who their coaching wasn't based around money, like life coaches or mindset coaches. So I'm like, they don't have to deal with this. And
Yeah.
I thought like that would make me feel so free if I just didn't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's also important to just tie in that if you're listening and you want to start a business or you're thinking about it, but you're not sure if you're like enough yet, you can start and you can share a message and that can be enough. You don't have to say, like, I made this much and now you can work with me. I think that causes a lot of blocks now for newer entrepreneurs coming in that are like, oh, there's all these amazing people I could never. If you have a powerful message and you have a passion that you want to share, that is enough and you don't have to attach any money to it. And I want to go along with what you were saying because you often talk about being in your doing it my way era, which is what you found now. And I find it so inspiring. But I think our listeners might be thinking, how can I be sure that doing it my way is setting me up for success? Like, where would you say is the line between doing things your way and tuning out the noise versus listening to expert advice and tuning into what your mentors have to say and all of that? Where's the line between those two areas?
That is such a good question. Yeah, I like to say I'm in my doing it my way era because I felt like for a while I was trying to fit a mold of the type of brand photos the successful business coach has to have, and the type of content or carousels the successful business coach has to make, or like I don't know. I just felt like I was giving into the expectations and the supposed tos a little bit rather than really like making the kind of content I love to create and like um yeah, just bringing more me into everything. So it's such a good question because yeah, obviously there needs to be a balance. So the way I see it is in business, there's intuition and there's strategy. And there's a need for both, right? It's not one or the other. So I think sometimes, some people lean so much into strategy that they completely lose touch with their own desires, their own intuition in business. They give a lot of that personal power away. Maybe they start working with a coach and they just, they have the coach up on a pedestal. So they start doing everything the coach says instead of really tuning into their own like autonomy in their business. Um, and then they end up, kind of like building, and this is at least how it felt for me at some points, is like a carbon copy of just like someone else's business model. Or you look at your feed and you're like, this kind of looks like every other business coach's feed. Or and you start to wonder why like you feel unfulfilled in your business. And it's I think there's an imbalance there where maybe you've leaned too much into strategy and you've let go of your intuition in your business. But then on the other side of things, you also have people who like dive so fully into intuition and like just like, I'm gonna go with the flow, I'm gonna do what feels good, and then they like kind of don't incorporate enough strategy, and then they struggle with not seeing results. um so yeah, I definitely think that there needs to be a balance. And so I don't know, I think what I think is so important, this is sort of like my approach or like coaching philosophy, is I help my clients tap into their intuition and desires, and then we back that vision up that they come up with on their own with the needed strategy to bring it to life. Um,
Yes.
so I try, like, something I try to be always really conscious of in my coaching calls is like I don't want to put my ideas into my client's head. I don't want to influence their vision in any way. I want that to be completely organic and unique to them. So I try to kind of start with questions that prompt them to just think and explore and, like just really tune into like the listener side of the coach, like asking the right questions and kind of prompting the client to kind of come to realizations on their own. And then once I feel like they're there and they have more clarity around their vision, then we can back it up with the strategy. Okay, like what do we know about marketing that can help that come to life? Or what do we know about sales psychology that can help that be successful? And so that's where I see the balance between, doing it your way is really honoring your vision and making sure that the parts of your business are aligned, they're authentic, Um, and then, the results come through just backing that up with strategy, but you use that intuition as your northern star always.
Yes, absolutely. The intuition is the leader all the time. And I think we need to really highlight what you said about your intuition being silenced by putting a coach on a pedestal, because I have heard that sentence time and time again. And it's so important to tune into yourself and tune into what your mind is saying. And I think on the balance, there's the side of all strategy, all hustle, all carbon copies. But then on the other side, something I like to call pulling the alignment card, where we just say, I'm protecting my peace today and not showing up. I'm protecting my peace this month and not showing up. And it's really just like a block to wanting to incorporate the strategy, because this is challenging. I'm not sitting here and saying entrepreneurship is easy and flowy and I never struggle. We have to show up on hard days. We do hard work of holding space for other people. We are consistent in social media marketing, which is a lot sometimes. Being on TikTok, growing consistently, it's a lot of posting. And there is a healthy amount of hustle to it, not the toxic hustle of forcing yourself to do things that don't feel good to you and forcing yourself to incorporate a strategy that literally does not align with you and creates all these blocks. But when you're passionate about something, when you are leading with your intuition, there should be this natural flow to get excited to work on it and excited to show up each day for it. And that's what you and I want to help our clients find, that healthy balance of, I want to show up every day. I want to put in the work. I want to do the difficult strategy sometimes and like push myself and prove to myself I can do hard things. But when I'm leading with intuition, I'm leading with my soul. And I do protect my peace when that feels out of alignment. And like you said, taking off for the holidays when things are not aligned, that is so valid. Like there is just the balance of when do we take the step back and when do we say, okay, I'm going to show up. And that all just comes back to leading with the intuition. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. You put that so well. When you're aligned or you're in touch with your intuition, it's going to put you in that creative flow, which is going to help to prevent burnout.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, yeah, of course, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, there's a level of consistency and hard work that comes with that. But that hard work can feel fulfilling and exciting and in alignment with your purpose, or it can feel resentful and like you're trapped and like you're burning out. And I think the difference there is really like the shift that I'm trying to highlight and make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. You're doing really amazing work. And I think it's so important that your clients know when they come into your space that they will be seen and heard. And that's something I always make my promise as too. Like, we don't promise this amount of financial results, but we do promise you will feel seen, you will feel heard, you will be listened to, and your ideas will be valued and respected, and we'll have open dialogue. And I wanted to ask you, because it can be really challenging to showcase what goes on in our coaching containers, because it's not this step-by-step guide to 5K. It's not the perfect framework to this specific tangible result. It's such intuitive work and it's all these abstract ideas. So tell us, what can a client expect when they come into your world, and what does it look like to be coached by you?
hmm Um, I like to start with, first and foremost, like one of the first questions I'll always ask clients in the intake form is like, what is your vision? What gets you up in the morning? What on the hard days do you keep in mind? And please explain it to me in the most detail.
Mhm.
Because I need to really like see the vision with them. Um and so with that, like I feel like I have certain frameworks for building confidence in your business or like getting back in touch with your intuition. Like there are different things I would suggest. But then there's like this aspect when it comes to the unique vision where the approach is going to be tailored to the client. And that's why I
Mhm.
love working with clients one to one. So yeah, the very first thing is, what is the vision at the end of the day? Like, what do you see your ideal life looking like, feeling like? So we can start to piece things together. And I think that something that's unique is like we have a lot of heart to hearts, me and my clients. Like you said, my biggest thing is I want to make sure they feel seen. I want to make sure they feel heard. Um, my clients are amazing. They always say like, I feel like you're just like my supportive best friend that, like A client of mine recently said, these are the conversations I used to sort of like have with my friends, but it's like not their job to always be there for me or help me figure it out, but it is yours. So it's nice. I'm like, no, I get that. I love that. But so yeah, so like for most of the calls, basically it's like I'm listening to the client, I'm hearing them out, I'm asking the questions that are going to help them come to clarity on their own. And then once we get there, then I'll step in and kind of give direction based on what I know about strategy or business or marketing or sales or, accomplishing a goal if they're not in business to kind of piece together an action plan for them. So my coaching is also really pretty heavy on like implementation and accountability. Um,
Yeah.
because I think sometimes those things, I think, sometimes coaching is focused on like concepts and then sometimes there's strategy. I really like to blend the two. Uh,
Yeah.
so like once we've come to that clarity, once we have that vision, okay, now how can we start putting these things into action? I think that most of it is just when it comes down to it, like I really like to help my clients clarify and articulate their vision and help them bring it to life through what I know about strategy.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you mentioned implementation and accountability because I think those are huge pillars to answer the question I was about to ask you. I was going to ask, what would you say to someone that is listening and saying, okay, I have been doing things my way, but I'm not seeing any results? And I think a big piece is having some accountability. That's a huge part of why clients invest into me. And I'm sure you too, because they need that accountability partner. They need someone that they can say, okay, this is my agenda today. Hold me to it. This is what I'm working towards. And that implementation part can be a huge gap. But what else could you say to someone who is like doing things their way, plugging into the intuition, making their own path, but they're not seeing any tangible results from it?
I think that would be the time to invest to fill sort of any gaps in your knowledge or in your strategy. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's amazing and that you're already at a place where you're doing things your way, you feel authentic, you feel aligned, you feel like your business is in alignment with the purpose you want to have. I think from there, it's like if you're not seeing results, I think from there, one or two things are usually happening. Either you're not seeing results because there's some gaps in your knowledge or your strategy. Like there's just some basic like marketing knowledge or sales knowledge. And the good thing is like a lot of that stuff is kind of like down to a science. So it's like once you learn it, like sometimes you might just need a course or something. Or I think what happens is like maybe you're at a place where you're doing things your way and like you are seeing results and you want to continue to see those kinds of results. You want to maximize on those results. And I think that's when it's like super powerful to work with a mentor who understands strategy and can help you like continue to like expand on those results or increase those results, but will continue to value your alignment, your intuition, your fulfillment in your business.
Right.
No, so that you can keep moving forward. But and I always like to say too, like, be careful of when you are investing it with like the goal of filling gaps in knowledge or strategy, careful of like what you are investing in or what you're doing. Like, okay, so for example, I've had a lot of clients who felt unfulfilled by the strategy as well, or like the strategy wasn't aligned with them. So like also make sure you are choosing coaches who are going to teach you methods that are in alignment with your what you value. So like for example, like cold DMing. I've had people who are told like, "Oh, cold DM 100 people a day and sell your services on the spot or something." And they're like, "That feels icky to me." So like really look into if you're going to vibe with a coach and the way that they teach marketing or sales is how they market and sell to you. So
Mm-hmm.
if you feel like respected during the whole process of like when they're talking about their offers or you feel like the way that they sell is coming across really genuine and ethical, then they will probably teach you to market and sell in the same way. So that's another thing I tell people to look for as well.
That's a huge sign to look for. I think that's a really smart one to look for. On the other side of this, so that's what we're saying to someone who's following their intuition and just not seeing change. Now, what can we say to the person who is tuning into this and maybe is actively realizing, oh shit, I am not in my own element. I am tuning way too much into the noise. I feel lost in this online world. I am not being myself. If you could go back and be that real life, like fairy godmother for yourself, what would you want to say to yourself to help be pulled out of that chaotic noise?
Mm, take a break, step away.
Mm-hmm.
Literally step away. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think that's so hard to do as an entrepreneur. You feel so guilty stepping away. You feel like it is such an anxious feeling when you're in the business and you're you're doing like a launch every month and you're used to having to show up on social media every day. Sometimes it's hard to come back and reconnect with yourself and and hear your intuition coming through again when you're like wrapped up in the motion. So I would say like give yourself some grace to step away. Not indefinitely, like give yourself a set amount of time. This is something because it's so easy to like take a indefinite break and then like it's so hard to come back.
Yeah.
So I like to say like give yourself a time frame. So for like when I felt this way, essentially I was like this month of December, I'm not going to go on social media at all. I was like, it's the holidays. This is the perfect time. But then I also set goals for how I was going to intentionally use that time away. Like I'm going to journal every day. I'm going to do things that are things that I did when I felt closest with myself, when I
Yeah.
felt like the relationship with myself was the strongest. So like yoga, meditation, journaling, hobbies, things that I enjoy. And my goal was to kind of like instead of focusing on the business, focus on make my relationship with myself the number one priority on the list for this certain amount of time.
Yes.
Um, and that really helped me. So that's really going to help you like come back to yourself. You need those moments of quiet. You need those moments of stillness to hear the voice inside your head and what it's telling you. And you have to allow yourself that time and space. So, yeah, anything that makes you feel really connected with yourself, any time in your life where you felt like your relationship with yourself was the strongest, that you were able to hear the little voice inside your head, it takes some time to do those things and reconnect and journal through and process what comes up. And then
Mm-hmm.
compare and contrast. Compare and contrast what once you're kind of more in tune with your desires and you'll have more clarity around what's currently unaligned and what needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. There is so much power in a break when approached with alignment and you're saying, okay, what can I do? How can I maximize this time for myself? How can I make this the time that I evolve? This can be a turning point in your chapter, or this could be like the dead season that you skip over. This is the opportunity to make a big change and say, this is the moment that I'm going to come back home to myself. And I think there's so much joy and value in taking a break in
And
that
the
element.
perspective shift of of seeing breaks as productive. Like
Yes.
seeing that as actually a productive, pivotal moment in your journey. Like this is necessary in order for me to move forward. That's exactly how I felt over the holidays. And it was proving to be true. I mean, like things were slowing down. And I was like, okay, something like the universe is forcing me to take this time
Mm-hmm.
because it's the only way I'm going to be able to move forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
View it as
Yeah.
productive as well.
Yeah. And I think even this could tie into breaks in other realms too. Like a break from a relationship isn't always like the end of the world and end game. It can be a productive time to say, okay, I'm stepping away. Where are the gaps? What am I feeling now that I'm with myself? And just having time to prioritize yourself and be present with yourself and tune out all of the distractions and noise and chaos that you've gotten caught up in can be very productive and can be a moment to say, okay, I'm ready to come back to this person or this business or this idea or this place, like time away
Or
from
right
family.
in your career, like if you're really happy in a job and you want to, and it's the scariest thing ever to quit. If you're feel like that's what you're being told to do, take it and don't feel guilty about it and use that time to reflect, okay, what wasn't aligned about that job or what didn't I like and gain the clarity about what to look like in future positions or anything. So yeah, of course, yeah, it goes for anything.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember you cannot miss anything that's meant for you, and you cannot accidentally end up in something that's not for you. You're always where you're meant to be. Everything's always happening for you. Nothing happens to you. There's no such thing as a coincidence or an accident that wasn't meant to happen. It all does come together in the end. We're all intertwined in some way, even if it looks chaotic now, even if we don't figure out the why behind it for years and years, it all does eventually make sense and come together.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the law of assumption, right?
Yep, law of assumption. And you were also talking a lot about law of attraction in there too, just like trusting that things will work out when you tune into yourself, and law of assumption. It's all
Yeah.
just meant to be, and you don't have to do the most, because the polarity of your experience was you could have said, okay, launches are flopping, things aren't working out. It's time to get into hustle mode. Let's work hard
Right.
every day. Let's spend December doing a 31-day challenge where I work for 9 hours a day. I lock in, I do lead gen every single day. You could have done that road too, but
True.
that is not where you were meant to be. And that would have taught you a much bigger lesson about burnout and valuing yourself and where your worth lives. And the law of least effort literally says, don't do the most. Do exactly what you need to do, and then take a step back and fill your cup again. Don't pour and pour and pour. And I think that hustle culture mindset is what we're moving away from, of like, you don't have to work every single day, all hours of the day to make things work. Sometimes you really need to plug into yourself and take a break, and that will be productive. So I love that. And I love that you're living proof of the fact that taking a break can be essential sometimes. What would you say is the most important thing for someone to consider when they're looking into investing into a coach, whether they're looking into like high level support, like when they're looking to invest, what should they ask themselves? What should they be thinking about? How can someone know what type of coach they're looking for? As someone who has had investments that then you have to reflect and say, okay, that wasn't the best for me. How can you guide our listeners to invest in the most aligned way?
I love this question. Like we said before a little bit, like definitely the way that someone shows up, the way that they're living their life, the way that they're marketing, the way that they're selling gives you a good idea of sort of how they would teach do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to like look for, if you're not someone who's like all about hustle, but the only thing that they're sharing or posting is like business related and you never see them out living their life or with their friends or whatever, then like maybe not the coach for you. So like look for that balance if that's something that you want, or look for the type of marketing or selling that feels good to you, and values as well. Like kind of like reading through what they write and the type of content that they put out, you might get a sense of the things that they value. And if that's in alignment with what you value, then I would say that would be a great coach client relationship for sure. In terms of, do I need a life coach or a business coach or both? I love that question. I think I was like even unclear of what life coaching was a few months ago. I mean, really, like when I was like considering putting it, like changing my title to life and business coach, I was actually like reading definitions of like, what is a life coach? How is it different from a therapist? And then as I learned more about it, I was like, yes, that is exactly what I want for to be. But essentially, I feel like, you know, to know whether you need a life or a business coach or both, come back to what we said before, like alignment versus strategy. Where do you feel like you're at? Do a little audit. Like, do you feel like you are maybe lacking alignment, or do you feel like you're more so lacking strategy, or is it a little bit of both? If it's both, then that's where I think working with like a life and business coach is super effective. If you feel like you're mostly like the main thing that you want to work on is like coming into alignment, then someone like KP would be like amazing, obviously. And then if you're like mainly struggling with strategy, but like you said before, like you feel like you're aligned, you feel like you have the clarity around the vision, you feel like you are super in touch with all of that, then that's where I would look for maybe a business coach and just fill those gaps in your knowledge around marketing or sales.
And I think it's also just important to ask yourself, do I know how to tap into my intuition? Is my intuition loud? And if you are confident in that, then you can take those next steps to investing into, implementing strategy and all of that. But if you're sitting here and thinking, you know what, I am not in touch with my intuition, then maybe that is the next investment to relearn how to listen to yourself and how to tap into who you are and activate that voice inside of you, so that you can trust that as you move forward and every decision you make next will be led with intuition. Because I think that's the top priority we've both agreed on here.
Yeah.
This has been so fun. I still am going to ask Marlie a couple closing questions, but first we're going to play a game. So you guys, this is my first guest ever. So this is new, but every guest that comes on, we're going to play a game, and it's going to be a different game every time. And today we're playing Kill, Marry, Fuck Alignment Edition. And it's going to be really fun. Essentially, how it's going to work is I'm going to give Marlie 3 alignment methods, tips, mindset tactics, life coaching topics, 3 things. And she is going to have to choose which one she's going to kill, marry, and fuck. Hypothetically, though, because kill means we're getting rid of it, canceled. Marry means full commitment, full love, 100% yes. And the fuck is like a one-time guilty pleasure, or like it's attractive, but it's not sustainable. So we're gonna go through a few of them. The rules are you can debunk something I'm saying. Like if you're like, okay, this is you have full control to say like this is not a fair question or whatever. And you have to explain why for
Okay.
all of them.
Okay, I can do this. Oh, I'm so excited. This is gonna be so fun.
Here we go. Kill, marry, fuck. TikTok For You page tarot readings. Lucky Girl Syndrome. And 75 Hard.
Oh my God. Okay. Definitely fuck the TikTok tarot readings. That is such a guilty pleasure. I love those. Have I spent a couple bucks on a TikTok live tarot reading before? Yes. Should it be your entire strategy for your life and business? No, but it's fun. So definitely do that one time. 75 Hard, I'm gonna say kill. I just feel like it's not the most sustainable. That's definitely not how I like to go building habits. Like I like to do one habit at a time. Once you establish a new habit, add on the next habit. Focus on getting consistent with that. Add on the next habit. I think it's a lot of change and like can set a lot of people up for failure, and then you feel like crap about yourself. So yeah, that's not how I like to go about establishing habits, especially sustainable ones. And then definitely marry Lucky Girl Syndrome. For sure. That is like live by the lucky girls. Oh my gosh, that is the best mindset you could possibly have. That it's sort of like law of assumption, right? Like everything's working out for me. That's how you're manifesting. That's how you're calling positive things into your life. So yeah, shifting your perspective is everything. Obviously, that's what the podcast is named after. So definitely marry Lucky Girl Syndrome.
I love it. Okay, since you mentioned building habits, 30 days of no snacks,
Oh my God.
30 days of Pilates, which I'm pretty sure you did a Pilates challenge recently. Am I right? Am I
Yoga.
wrong? Yeah, yeah. Yes. Okay, yeah. And then 30 days of waking up early.
Okay, kill 30 days, no snacks. Are you kidding? We don't restrict around here. Okay. Whew. This is like, that's hard. This really hits me home because I am somebody who's put pressure on myself my whole life to wake up early every day, and I've never been able to do it. I have literally like struggled with it, and I feel like I need to like let go of that. So I'm gonna say fuck waking up early every single day. Try it for a little bit. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Build a lifestyle that doesn't require you to.
Mm-hmm.
And marry a 30-day Pilates journey, because I think it's super important to discover movement that you enjoy, that doesn't feel like forced or punishment. And I think that's a great way to try something new, and getting in a little bit of that time for yourself every day would be a great habit to have. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think waking up early, it can be something you do sometimes and something you don't do sometimes. You don't have to be a 5 a.m. girly for life. Like, you don't have to lock into that forever.
Or like
But
you wake up early a few days a week, you're golden. That's amazing. And
yeah,
I hate that it's like the day that you sleep in because you needed a little extra sleep and your body clearly needed it. You feel like crap about yourself because you broke your streak or whatever. I'm done with
yeah.
it.
Yes, done with it. I love it. My next one is kind of ironic because you talked about this so much today and I didn't even anticipate it, but misalignment coping, fake it till you make it, social media break, endless journaling.
Coping with misalignment, fake it till you make it, kill, I think, right? Like, because if
Yeah.
you're misaligned, you don't want to just cope with that. You want to deal with that. You want to work through it. Okay, so kill faking it till you make it. Marry the social media break.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like when you're misaligned, just take the break. Take the break. Come back. Don't take a forever break, but take the break and don't feel guilty about it. And endless journaling. This is hard. This one I'm stuck on. Fuck endless journaling because I love it. But like, I feel like you can do a certain amount of journaling, figure out what you need to figure out, and move on.
Yeah, I feel like it's easy to get really lost in like the journaling frenzy and you just like can't stop writing, writing, writing. And like you kind of get overthinking in your head of like trying to be like the perfect next step. You know, like when you over consume the manifestation content and then you're like, okay, am I always speaking everything into existence? Am I going to accidentally manifest something wrong? And it can just get like the opposite of helpful. So I agree with you.
I'm still not 100% on my answer to this one. You stumped me there.
You can always veto me.
No, I feel like the social media break, like I don't want to say marry that one because it's like we said before, like consistency is still important.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that like we need to normalize taking breaks and taking time away from social media when needed. Like that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not natural for
Yeah.
people to be like for our whole lives to be on social media. Like we need to go touch some grass sometimes.
This one might be really hard. Journaling style. Gratitude, affirmations, or open-ended diary.
Very gratitude. I feel like if nothing else, if you're journaling one thing only and you just want something quick, make it be gratitude. That's just going to keep you in the energy of, it's just going to keep you in the right state of mind. Focusing on gratitude has changed my life. Like the more gratitude you have, the more I just feel like you're blessed with. You're just attracting
Mm-hmm.
positivity into your life when you stay in that state of mind. Okay, fuck open-ended diary. I feel like that's also almost tied for Mary because it's just like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's just so good to have just like a to just kind of journal like a stream of consciousness. Like
Mm-hmm.
get it out of the head, allow yourself to process it. I guess that would be kill affirmations, but I do love affirmations. But I feel like a lot of people could be approaching affirmations differently. Like here's the way that I like to do affirmations. I like to take something that like is currently a limiting belief or an insecurity I have and form it into an affirmation. So what's been really crazy is this year, last year with everything like going to crap, I had a lot of anxiety around finances, and I started affirming like I am abundant, right? But your brain's gonna be like, well, that's a lie. If you're struggling, you're like, I'm not abundant right now, and then I think a lot of people stop there and they're like, they just kind of tell themselves lies every day and think that it's affirmations, and if I say it enough, I'm gonna believe it. But I like to like intentionally when I write the affirmation, try to find the truth in it. Like there's a perspective shift to everything. So like when I was writing I am abundant, I was thinking of the ways that I am already abundant. I have a roof over my head, I have a loving partner, I have all these things until I get to the place where I feel, you know what? Yeah, no, actually I am abundant, and then I can stop. And if you do it that way, like then it was crazy. That was the affirmation I focused on for the first like 3 months of this year, and I just kept getting abundance. It was nuts. Like I was barely active on social media in the beginning of this year. I had people reaching out and signing up for one-to-one coaching with me after like 6 months of doing the most and trying so hard last year, and like having trouble signing people on. So that was crazy. Money being given to me, gifts being given to me and stuff. So wild. I do love affirmations. But for this sake of this game, we're going to kill affirmations in the way that most people do them of just like, I am beautiful. I am strong. I am this repetitively in the mirror without being intentional about it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love how you answered that because you're right. It has to be intentional. If it's not intentional, then there's literally no point. I love that. You made that so fun. You made that so like helpful for listeners and also so fun. I love it. How can listeners connect with you after tuning in today?
Yeah, so you can follow me on TikTok or Instagram. My first and last name is my handle, so at Marlie Derstine. My goal this year is to be more active on TikTok. I foresee that potentially being like my main platform, my primary platform, which is such a awkward shift from Instagram being my main platform for so many years. But that is the goal for this year. So definitely follow me there. And then Instagram as well. I try to show up on at least stories every day.
Awesome. And if you could leave our listeners with one perspective shift that's helped you stay in alignment on your journey, what would it be?
Do not ignore your desires. Tune into your desires. So that relationship with yourself that we talked about, really prioritize that. Because when you prioritize that, you're going to essentially tune into your desires. And I believe that what you desire is what's meant for you. And you have your desires for a reason. They're there. I like to picture them as like your angels are like literally like whispering them to you in your ear. And that's why you want them, because they're things, you wanting those things, desiring those things, and going after fulfilling those desires is what's going to keep you on the path that's meant for you. I think that's why we have desires, and that's why not everyone's desires are the same. So definitely tune in your desires. Stop thinking that like, oh, I'm greedy for wanting that, or that's not possible for me, or that's crazy. I've never seen anyone do that or have that or whatever. I think there's a lot of greed that comes with desire, which is so toxic. Like you do not have to feel guilty or greedy for desiring things, even if that's like a super wealthy lifestyle or to travel the world or whatever it is that you want. Believe that you are meant to have it. And
Hmm.
you're meant to have it for a reason. And it like is to help you fulfill your purpose. So yeah, and I feel like really like realizing that and honoring that gave me the motivation and the confidence to do it my way in business and to make all these changes because I was like, this is how I desire to do it. This is how I want to do it. And that means it's meant for me. That means this is the way I'm supposed to do it. And I'm going to honor that and listen to that. So
I love that. And that was all rooted in law of abundance because there's more than enough. If you want to travel the world and have the most luxurious life, I can have it too. And so can everyone listening. There is enough money, light, resources, love, experience to go around for everyone. So there should be no greed in wanting more and more for yourself because you deserve it. And if you've dreamt it, it already belongs to you because it's lived in your mind. And law of manifestation, everything starts in your mind. So if you've thought it, it can exist for you. Thank you so much, Marlie. This was so fun. This was an A plus first guest on the podcast. I am so grateful that you were here today, that we had these amazing conversations, and that you played the game so well.
I had so much fun. I'm like so honored that you had me.
Of course, this was so fun. We definitely have to do this again. So this isn't the last time that we'll be together on the podcast. But yeah, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening.